Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I just started Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. So this is her first fantasy romance or romantasy. And this is also my first Devney Perry. Her books have been on my radar for years. I know she's a very popular contemporary romance author, but I have never really picked up any of her books. And then this one has been getting some pretty big hype. It came out, by the time this video is published, it came out a week ago. So I figured let's start with this one. Let's see what I feel about her romantasy. So this is the first book in a series, I'm assuming. So this book takes place on this continent named Calandra, where there are 5 kingdoms. Years and years and years ago, these 5 kings made a treaty with each other to marry off one of their daughters to one of the future kings to keep the peace, basically. And so all these countries have intermingled with each other so that they could keep the peace. Basically, the woman or the princess who has to marry the foreign prince is called a sparrow. The reason they're doing that is because of these fearsome, dangerous, winged type creatures called the Lux, I think. The Crux. Basically, they have these migrations every couple of years. The year of the migration is when the marriages have to happen. And we follow Odessa. And she, even though she's the firstborn child to the king, and she's from the kingdom of Quintus, and even though, like I said, she's the firstborn, she was not going to be heir because she has a little brother, but she always assumed her little sister, May, was going to be the one to be the sparrow and to get married to the prince of Torah. But on the day the prince and his entourage show up, they demand that Odessa be the one that gets married to the prince. So she has not been trained for it. She is really kind of like weaker princess, since May is very well versed in like what you think of like a fantasy heroine. Basically, she knows how to fight, how to protect herself. She knows archery, whereas Odessa really sucks at all of that. So everybody's surprised when the prince wants to marry her, and he wants to get married that evening. So her father, the king, has one evening to reveal his real plans and to train her for his real plans, because his real plan is, even though there's a treaty, and in the treaty there are different stipulations that you're not allowed to kill each other and the king cannot renege on his deal, Odessa's father wants her to get to the capital of the country, which nobody knows where the capital is. It's a secret. He thinks that in that capital lies the answers to defeating the Crux. And he wants her to kill the Guardian, who's very close to the prince. And the Guardian is this feared, handsome warrior. And it seems like he's magical in a way. And there's also some things he's keeping a secret from her that he didn't keep from May, her sister. And she is out of her depth here because she didn't know that at all. And of course, May has been trained for years in this mission, whereas Odessa has to first of all come to terms with the fact that she's getting married to somebody that she didn't think she was going to marry, plus this whole mission that she's not ready for in any way, shape, or form. So that's going to be very interesting. Where I'm at now, I'm on page 103, chapter 13. She, along with 2 ladies' maids and the guys from Torah, are traveling back to Torah. So she has gotten married, she has learned about what her father's real plans are, and she has to figure it out. It's not 100% clear yet, but it seems like her love interest is going to be the Guardian and not Xavier the Prince. So far, Xavier has no interest in betting her, so they are married, but they have not consummated the marriage yet. She finds the Guardian very attractive and very mysterious, obviously. So she had a fiance before the switch up in marriage here, and her fiance was this general, and they also didn't really have anything together. It was also a political marriage, but he hates the Guardian because the Guardian was responsible for killing his family or his brother. So there are, like, the Guardian, like I said, he seems magical. There seems to be something about him. And so far I am liking their interactions together. Let me actually see if there are other things I want to discuss. Yeah, so the Turans, they are these warrior people basically. So alongside the marriage treaty, Odessa's father asked them to get rid of these magical beings in the water that have been killing his people for a couple of years now. What are they called? Marrow eels. And that is basically what the prince used to ask for a different bride, basically. Yeah, I am interested to see. So far, like, Quintus seems like standard kingdom in a fantasy novel. I am interested to see what the other kingdom looks like, what Tura looks like. So far I'm really enjoying it. Devney Perry has written many a book. Like, this is a whole list of all her books. So she is a prolific author, and I know a lot of people really love her books. Like, there are so many that I'm reading here that I am also very interested in because people keep talking about her books. So I know that she is a great author. So far, I am impressed with the world building. Obviously, I'm only 20% of the way through, but so far I am intrigued by everything I'm reading. I don't feel like there's a lot of info dump here. It feels like very natural. She is weaving it pretty naturally into the story, which I'm impressed with considering she's never really written a fantasy romance before. And I am interested in like the magic systems and like the whole lore in this world. I feel like she is doing a good job with those. As far as the romance is concerned, so far, there's really nothing going on. I have read that it's going to be a pretty slow burn romance. I have to say in the beginning, I was confused who was going to be her love interest. Going by a lot of fantasy romances I read, I just don't think the prince is going to be the love interest here. So I am thoroughly entertained so far. I'm also listening to this while reading it, so I am tandem reading it, and I am loving that experience too. And I have heard of these two audiobook narrators before, just by watching booktube videos of people who listen to more audiobooks than I do. So I started this book yesterday, but I got about like 50 pages of the way through, I think. And the plan, actually, even though I'm only on page 100, is to finish this book tomorrow, but I also have to work tomorrow. So we'll see if that ends up happening, but I really want to do that. The audiobook tells me I have about 7 hours left. We'll see. I am really loving this cover. I think it's a beautifully made book. These are the sprayed edges. These are the end papers, and the naked hardback is also very pretty. What I'm liking about this book, first of all, I am liking Odessa. I don't know her too well yet, but I just like how different she is from most fantasy romance girlies. I feel her sister May is the typical romantasy heroine, the one who is very competent and knows, like, can do battle and stuff. Whereas Odessa is not really the typical romantasy female main character, so I am enjoying that. I like seeing what she's gonna do, what she's gonna learn. And like, she really is a fish out of water. She has to complete this mission, and she already knows that she's unqualified for that. So we'll have to see. I am excited to see what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna continue. I think I'm gonna update you once I'm halfway through of more of my thoughts. Hopefully there will be a little bit more romance development there. So I'll talk to you then. All right, I just finished Shield of Sparrows a little bit later than I wanted to because I am filming this. So I'm finishing this on the day I'm uploading it. And I really wanted to finish it on Monday, but that's okay because I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars. In fact, I will have a spoilery section where I will talk in depth and more about like my questions, where we left off towards the end of the book. So stay tuned if you have read this book and are interested in my spoilery thoughts. For now, I still have a lot of non-spoilery thoughts. So I know I told you that I was going to update you at the halfway point. The problem though, however, was that at that point in the story, nothing much was happening because I feel like between when I updated you last and the halfway mark was a long section of like 100 to 150 pages where nothing much was really happening. And in hindsight, I get it because there were things happening. She was building the character of our main character, and also she was very much setting up all these relationships that were gonna happen throughout the rest of the book. Not just in the romantic department, because I felt like that was one of the reasons it was kind of boring for me. It's because there wasn't really much progression in the romance at that point, but she was building relationships with other characters in the story, the friendships. There's a little girl introduced in here, which I'll talk about the characters later, but who I very much loved. So I feel like in hindsight, I'm glad it was there, but while reading it, it was kind of boring and nothing much was happening. Everything that happened in that section from page 100 to 250 or something felt like that built all the relationships in this book, that I feel like when something happened to all the other characters in this book, it just hit harder because of the foundations that were set in that section. And I do feel like towards the halfway point, this book very much picked up pace. I felt like there was progression in every aspect. There was a lot of progression in the plot. I was very much starting to enjoy this plot, really had some questions that I had, and things started getting answers. The romance was very much building towards the latter half of this book. Yeah, I just wanted to flip pages and wanted to figure out what was happening. I do have to say, this book, if you really love The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen, I think you will very much enjoy this one, because I feel like where they're at in Tura very much reminds me of The Bridge Kingdom. It's a land of warriors. It's very a dangerous place. There's a lot of mystery tied to it. There's a secret hidden city that nobody knows about and is sworn to secrecy. And also, obviously, there's a princess who's a spy, and she is ordered to kill the love interest in this book, and he very much distrusts her. In The Bridge Kingdom, the king is a warrior, and Ransom in here is a warrior, but Xavier is also a warrior. And the Bridge Kingdom series is one of my favorite romantasies, and that's why I think I love this one too. And I really enjoyed this world building in general in this book. I feel like she did a good job. She introduced things in natural ways, and also I feel like there's a lot more to this world that we haven't learned yet. So I'm very much looking forward in the next books to find out more about this world. So I feel like even though this is her first romantasy, it just doesn't feel like, it feels like she's been writing fantasy for a while, because this just doesn't really read like a first fantasy in my opinion. And as far as the questions are concerned, so this book had a lot of questions. I feel like she answered a lot, but there's still some mystery, there's still mystery there. There's still some questions that I really want to find out the answers to. So a lot of things to discover in book 2, and I'll be talking in the spoiler section which questions I still have. Moving on to the characters, let's talk about the romance. So the Guardian. In the beginning, I do have to say I had kind of a love-hate relationship with him for a couple of reasons. One, I felt like there was not a lot of romance in this book. As I said in my first update, I was kind of confused who the love interest really was, because I felt like that wasn't really set up a lot, and I felt like the interactions we did have from him were not good ones. In fact, I reacted to one, which I'll leave right here. Okay, I have to react to this because I am gagged. Okay, gagged and gooped. Okay, really, the Guardian really is a dick. Okay, let me just read you what I just read. I was like screaming. Okay, so so Xavier just returned, okay? She hadn't seen him in a while, and she found out a big secret about him. So, you know, she kisses him on the cheek and then is kind of embarrassed about that. So she goes to the treehouse, and when she gets there, she finds the Guardian on her bed. She wants him to leave. He refuses, and then he tells her, "How many men have you bedded? I know you're anxious to join Xavier in his, but a word of caution, he's not fond of women who reek of desperation." Excuse you? Oh my God. First of all, what do you mean reek of desperation? That is her husband, okay? And not by her choice, okay? I was gagged. Okay, gagged and gooped. Like, oh my God. I know he's the love interest. I know. And I don't know. I'm liking them together, but also he's kind of annoying me sometimes. Like, I don't know, I think maybe it has to do with the fact that we don't really get a whole lot of interactions, but that makes sense because he doesn't trust her, and he makes it clear. Like right afterwards, he makes it clear again that he does not trust her. But I didn't think he would go that way, and he did. So, you know, I feel like he should grovel for that, but we'll see. Just came here to say that. Once again, I do have to say, after the halfway point, I feel like the relationship was developing gradually and naturally between them, and I did end up loving him. I felt like he was a great hero. I was very much endeared to him. Is he one of my favorite heroes of all time? No, but like that, those are far and few in between. The amount of times he said mine in this book made me feral. Definitely a possessive hero. And it's an interesting dynamic because technically she's engaged to somebody else, or technically she's married to somebody else. I just feel like he was the only one in the world who really saw her for who she was. And the way he could explain that, I very much enjoyed. So I was endeared to him very much. And I did like their scenes together. So as far as spice is concerned, there's not a whole lot actually, because their first sex scene is only at around the 80% mark. And after that, they do have sex a couple times. So it does feel like a lot in a short time span. But overall, if you look at this over 500-page book, that is a romantasy, there's not really a lot of spice in this book, but I did enjoy the scenes we did get. Okay, so now for the other characters. Like I said in the beginning, I feel like I definitely enjoyed a lot of characters in this book. Like I enjoyed Luella, I enjoyed Tilia, I enjoyed Xavier, and I did like how, so Tilia has a husband. I don't really know him, but since I know her and love her so much, I was also worried for the husband, you know. Also, Evie, Evangeline, is the bestest girl in all the world. I loved her so much. She was like my light, especially in that section where I was kind of struggling and I felt like, oh my God, this is kind of a slog to get through. She was the one that kept me reading. And I do have to say, since I listened to this while reading at the same time, I felt like the audiobook narrator did a fantastic job with Evie's voice because she made her even cuter than she already was. I enjoyed her. I felt like Devney did this kid very well. I think she has written a couple kids in books, but Evie was just adorable. I loved her so much. And another shining star was definitely FaZe, the Tarkin puppy, or the Tarkin kitten, I guess. So she kind of saves this monster who Ransom wants to kill. She saves him and he kind of becomes her pet. Hopefully, he will stay her pet because I definitely enjoy pets in books. So hopefully he will stay by her side for a while. If you love Throne of Glass and you love like Fleetfoot and you love, I think the girl's also named Evangeline, no? Then you're definitely gonna enjoy these two in here. It didn't really feel at all like a copy of Throne of Glass, but I feel like those are similar type of characters that if you enjoyed that in Throne of Glass, then you'll enjoy it here. So overall, one of my favorite books I read this year. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what else she's gonna write in this fantasy setting, and this did make me really want to read more books by her. So maybe when the sequel comes out, I will be doing like a Devney Perry vlog because I really hope this will get very popular because I do think it deserves it. I feel like it is a very solid, good, great even fantasy romance. And I do have to say, as far as like romantasy / fantasy romance, I do feel like, yes, there's a lot of romance in this book. But since it was only towards the latter half of this book, I do feel like this could have stood on its own without the romance. There's enough of another plot going on that it would still be there without the romance. So yeah, I very much enjoyed it. I love the plot. I love the characters. I love the romance. I just loved everything about this book. So I would highly recommend it. Like I said, if you really love books like The Bridge Kingdom or Throne of Glass, I think you're very much going to love this one. So before I get into the spoiler section, I really want to thank those who are leaving now for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like if you did. And once you read this book and have finished it, come back and tell me all your thoughts on Shield of Sparrows. Now moving on to the spoiler section. So if you're still here, I'm really hoping that either you have read this book or you don't care about spoilers. I would still highly encourage you to read it anyway because it was a beautiful book in my opinion. But let's get started with the spoilers. This is really going to be all over the place, but there are some things I really wanted to talk about. So first of all, those last chapters were crazy. I really didn't think she was going to go that way. Like, she was ruthless. Like, there are a lot of people that we cared about, like I said, who died in a gruesome way or are on the verge of death. That whole scene with Xavier and Evie just still breaks my heart. Like, I just wanted to cry. Like, I was reading it on the tram and like there were tears in my eyes. I wanted to cry, but since I was in public, I really couldn't. But I do think, even though I am not really a crier when reading books. That also because I was listening to it, I think if I was at home, I would have cried. It was so fucking sad. And like I said, Halston, his name is Halston, right? Even though I was sad about him almost dying. Yeah, Halston. When I thought he died, I just felt so sorry for Tilia. Like, she's pregnant, her husband doesn't have a leg anymore. Like, that crux was terrifying. And oh my God, I think I'll have nightmares about that scene with Xavier and Evie. That was just heartbreaking. And Ransom's mother died, so I don't know. Yeah, a lot of death. But I mean, at least we know that she's not afraid to kill people that we care about. And like I said in my non-spoilery section, the fact that we had those kind of boring that boring part of like 150 pages where nothing really much was happening, that is the reason why I cared so deeply and felt it in my bones. When Halston almost died, when Xavier almost died, it's because of those 150 pages where it was not a lot of action. So Ransom's mother created Lysa, so she explains it that she really likes alchemy. She was experimenting to make people stronger, to fight the crux. And then she injected Ransom with the elixir, and then he got bitten by a barrow wolf. And that combination of him having this elixir in his system plus the saliva of the barrow wolf created a type of magic that created Lysa. And it created Lysa in both of them. And the barrow wolf has been infecting other monsters. So that's, first of all, I feel like that's a very interesting thing to kind of combine magic and science together in this story and this magic system. But of course, we know Ransom's mother dies, so I don't know how they're gonna find a cure. Yeah, I'm assuming... we don't know where Odessa's going, but hopefully where she's going we'll have some answers. I do think she's going to the capital. And I find Odessa an interesting character because on the one hand, she is smart. Like, she has figured out a lot of things in this book. Like, she realized who Ransom's mother was. She realized that it was her who created Lysa. She is perceptive and does realize some stuff, but on the other hand, she is so clueless sometimes. Like, she really sometimes is the worst spy. The fact that she did not realize that her lady's maid was a spy, and the fact that, like, she was already burned once. Like, I don't know why she didn't really figure out, like, maybe my lady's maid is doing things when she's not with me, you know what I mean? And I do feel like, I really didn't like that side plot, because I did feel like she was turned into kind of a movie villain in a way. Like, okay, so first she sleeps with Odessa's husband, technically, and then she turns out to be this spy who's been feeding this information and being really a bad guy. I don't know. I don't really like her as a villain. I don't think she's a good one. So in that case, I'm glad that she's not alive anymore. I do feel like the two kings are more interesting villains. So I am interested to see like how that's going to develop in book 2. So also one thing I feel like we're going to figure out more in book 2, and I feel like that's going to happen in, I don't even know if this is going to be a duology or a trilogy, but so the Shield of Sparrows can be broken by killing a Voster, and Ransom thinks that Odessa's father wants to do that. So I do feel like that's going to be a plot line in later books. So we're going to have to see how that is going to develop. But right now, Odessa really is the biggest mystery of them all, because when the Voster touch her, she's in pain when nobody else is in pain when a Voster touches them. Her mother is apparently somebody special, and we don't really know like what that is. The Voster seem to know who her mother is, but nobody else, and she also doesn't either. And her mother used to be the queen in Quintus, and she died. So I don't know. There's something about the mother. She seems to be attracting monsters. And at the very end of the book, when Ransom kills the Vox, or the Crux, sorry, when Ransom kills the Crux, it turns into a woman with hair the same as Odessa's. Okay, so I'm confused. Is she a Crux? Is she half Crux? Are the Crux and her related somehow? That is a big mystery that we're gonna probably have to figure out in book 2. And if that's the case, like, how does that work? What are the Crux really? So that is a big mystery that we're gonna have to find out in book 2, hopefully. And the Voster has her now, so she, like, it seems like she went willingly. Her and Evie and FaZe went with the Voster to, I'm assuming, the capital. So yeah, definitely a cliffhanger for book 2, but not that big that I cannot survive without it being in my hands right now. So lots of questions, but I do have to say that a lot of my questions I had earlier on were answered. So yeah, I think those are my thoughts. For now, those are my questions and the spoilery thoughts I had. Definitely let me know in the comments below. I'm assuming if you're still here, you have read it. Leave all your thoughts down below. Did you love it as much as I did? So leave all your thoughts down below. And if you didn't love it as much as I did, I would really like to know why. So leave all your thoughts down below. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know by leaving a like if you did. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.